I'm Doyle McCormick, Chief Mechanical Officer and Engineer on the 4449. 1 year ago today, this locomotive sat in the same spot it sits right now. Since then, it's gone through a complete overhaul and traveled over 7,000 miles to New Orleans and back from the New Orleans World's Fair daylight.
Well, during a rebuild, the first thing you've got to do is take all the jack and wagging off. Start right from the outside and work your way in. These photos here show the engine with the jacket and wagon completely off just before we started the disassembly process, so to speak. We took the pony truck out and disassembled the whole pony truck, jacked the whole engine up, left the wheels suspended in the air with daylight under the wheel. Took the tires off. That was a neat project. Just take a piece of 1/2-inch pipe, form it into a circle, drill a hole about every 4 inches, hooked up compressed air and propane to it, put it around the tire and just heated the tire up, took a couple of bars and pried it right off.
Same process as putting the tires back on?
Yeah, it's basically the same process. It's a shrink fit. The tire is made smaller than the wheel by about, in this case, 93 thousandths smaller. You heat it up, it'll expand, and you put it on and let it cool, it shrinks on there. Well, I tell you, it gets tight like a booger. We looked at all the crank pins on there, where the rods go, and we determined they needed to be machined, and there was an outfit out here at Newburgh called Climax Manufacturing, and we made a portable journal squirrel. It's just a little portable machine mounted on the end of the crank pin, and had a cutting head on it, and went around and remachined all the crank pins on it, and made all new rod brass for that. And we started on the inside of the engine. All the tubes had been taken out about a year ago. Just on weekends we got all those out, so we started cutting the front flue sheet out, and burn the rivets out and drive them out with an air hammer. Cut the sheet off. We went back, cut the back tube sheet out, to get out the front, set it on the ground to the outside. And the side sheets in the firebox had to come out. They had to be cut out a chunk at a time because the stay bolts go through them. And after all the stay bolts are cut off, you got to take the ends out, chisel them out, drill them out. And you got to burn all the rivets out of the mud rig. So you get the sheets out clear down below the mud rig. Burn the ends of them out, and you take a big 90 air hammer and you drive the other end back through. Shop around trying to find somebody to make us a flue sheet. Nobody'd make it. Well, they'd make it, but they wanted top buck for it. I said, wait a minute. We did a little research and figured out how to do it. We made our own form and then nailed it down to a blacksmith's table and started working on it and made our own flue sheet down there from the back end. The front flue sheet wasn't a problem because it was round. The back sheet, because it's an odd shape, was a real problem. Nobody would do it for us. So we ended up doing that ourselves and saved ourselves about $8,000 on that. And of course we had to cut all the holes in it, the tubes, and cut the holes in both sheets. And the reassembly starts. You get stay bolts. They're kind of hard to come by, so we convinced Republic Steel to make us a minimum batch of stable material. We had to go down the street here to a place that had an old stable thread machine, and we threaded it all up, cut it all off, drilled them, and put them in there. So we put in 765 rigid stay bolts and 118 flexible stay bolts. Of course, we put the new side sheets in to put the rivets back in. And of course, riveting is sort of a lost art today, too. And we picked a few brains, heated up some rivets, and tried our hand at riveting. It was interesting because when we first got started, we put 3 in, you got to take 2 out. So, but we finally got the knack of it and get all the rivets in. I never want to do that again. New tubes arrived. Now, these tubes are swedged. You know what swedging is? It's where they're neck down in the back. They're normally 3.5 inches, but in the back sheet you need more space between the tubes. Again, it was one of these projects, nobody could do it. We experimented and made a die and set us up a little homemade swedging operation out there with a jackhammer, a die and a forge, and you heat them up, put them in there, turn them, and rattle on the jackhammer, and knock them right down the sides. We did some research on boiler design, efficiency, and operation, and decided that we should put circulators in the firebox, which is a tube that comes out of the side sheet and goes into the crown sheet. What it does, it acts like a percolator in a coffee pot. This does the same thing with a boiler. It takes the water in the tube and heats it, pushes it out the top, and draws the cold water off the bottom, and gives you a circulating effect, which gives you much better temperature. You get more even expansion of the boiler and the steel in it. Prolongs the life of the boiler. We put 4 of those on each side. And then it was just a matter of starting to put everything back together. We said put the jacket and lighting back on, and paint it, fire it up, and let her go.
On May 5, 1984, 4449 left Portland on a round-trip journey of over 7,000 miles, the longest single steam excursion in U.S. history. Her route to the World's Fair would take her south through Klamath Falls, Sacramento, San Francisco and Fresno, and continuing on over the Tehachapi Loop to Los Angeles and Yuma before turning east to New Orleans. At Tehachapi, 2 helper diesels painted in the blazing daylight colors were added up front to assist 4449's climb up the 2.3% grade. Helpers had been assigned at the request of 4449's crew to assist in all helper districts. On May 12th, 4449 rolled down Soledad Canyon to arrive in Los Angeles for 3 days of display alongside Southern Pacific's Olympic engine, a beautifully painted SD-40 diesel locomotive. The morning departure from Yuma on May 16th was delayed by a broken spring retaining bolt. It took several hours to locate the 50-ton jack to raise 4449's driver for the necessary repairs to be made. During a day of rest in Phoenix, 4449 was put on display. During this time, Richard Yeager explains the operation of the fireman's side of the cab.
This is the water glass. This tells me at all times what the level of water is in the boiler. And when the first thing you do in the morning when you come on and you fire the engine up is you open the glass up and blow it down to clear all the sediment out of the water glass. And that gives you an accurate reading of your water level all day long. That's probably one of the most important gauges on in the cab, because that tells me when to put water in the boiler, which is the most primary function of the fireman. Okay, when you're on the road running, you only need to use about 4 of the valves. So most of the valves control just systems. But when you're out on the road, the main valve that you use is the firing handle. This controls the amount of oil that you put into the firebox. And this is your atomizer, which is a steam jet that blows the oil into the box. This controls the blower, which you use when you're drifting or when you're stopped in a station, because you have to have a constant draft to keep the fire hot. And then this over here is your feed water pump that puts water into the boiler. When we're running along and everything's running good and hot, this is all you need to use, is just the feed water pump. If you're sitting in a station, you can use the injector, which is this handle down here. This is another way of putting water into the boiler. All modern steam locomotives have to have at least 2 points of where you put the water in the boiler. One's the injector, the other's the feed water heater. So when you're running along at 60 miles an hour or whatever speed you're going, basically you run the thing with about these 4 controls. The oil is over here in about the middle of the quadrant. The atomizer runs about 10 to 15 pounds of pressure. The water pump's on maybe a half to 3/4 of a turn, and the blower is shut completely off, and you got a good exhaust. The rest of the controls don't do anything other than heat the oil or heat the cab, things like that. Gauges tell me what's going on in the cab and in the boiler at all times. This is my main steam pressure gauge. Right now I got about 265 pounds of steam. This is the atomizer gauge. It tells me how I'm blowing steam into there. This is the temperature gauge. It tells me how hot the oil is before it goes into the firebox. When you're firing with a heavy crude oil, you have to preheat it so that it flows and burns well. This gauge here tells me when the feed water pump is working. It tells me the cycle time of the feed water pump. And this is steam heat to the back of the train. Now, this is Phoenix, Arizona, and it's hot, and you wouldn't think we need steam heat, but it also heats the water for our showers in the crew car, and that's why it's on.
Leaving Phoenix on May 18th, 4449 heads southeast to Tucson and El Paso, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, and New Orleans. 4 weeks out of Portland, 4449 crosses the Huey Long Bridge and enters New Orleans, the site of the 1984 World's Fair. Opening May 12th, the fair celebrates the world of rivers, including the River of Steel, traveled by Union Pacific engines like the 8444, another 484 on display. In New Orleans, Daylight 4449 takes her place among exhibits like NASA's Space Shuttle Enterprise and the popular monorail ride. After a week on display, it's time once again to cross the Mississippi and begin the westward leg home.